You know, if someone asked me, do I believe that there are gender fluid people? I would say yes. And I would say a young man.
See, I bet you if you were to ask Vaush or any breadtuber ahead of time, do you think Jordan Peterson would acknowledge that gender fluid people exist? I can almost guarantee you they all would have said no.
Right. Their stereotype of Jordan Peterson is that he only believes in a gender binary where men are at the hierarchical top over women.
Right. They think Jordan Peterson is the Bible thumping preacher who's trying to sneak social conservatism into the society.
Right. When he's definitely 20% soy. Jordan Peterson's a good 20% soy.
You know what he's like temperamentally. He's high in agreeableness.
Oh wait, I gotta go back. This is important.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, and Vaush doesn't give Jordan Peterson any credit, whatsoever for this.
He does mumble under his breath. Oh, like he notices.
He goes, yeah, good job.
I would say yes, and I would say a young man.
What's he say there?
He says, "Aw."
It seems like he's not. It seems like he wasn't expecting it though.
Do I believe that there are gender fluid people?
Okay, hold on. Keep talking over this part. This part's important.
Oh, okay. That's not...
That there are gender fluid people. I would say yes, and I would say a young man who's gender fluid. I know what he's like temperamentally. He's high in agreeableness. He's high in neuroticism, so he has a feminine temperament. He's more interested in people than things, and he's extremely high in openness. And so his temperament is fluid. He's creative. And
this is exactly the kind of way that Jordan Peterson would talk about gender, where he would use one of these incredibly arbitrary pseudo-intellectual, like self-description based, like personality matrices to determine. Yeah, this sounds like it's coming out of like the 19th century right here. Like, well,
Wait.
I know a gender fluid person. You see, the schizophrenic varies in openness and agreeableness depending on when you pull them. So in a way, the gendered character, this is meaningless. This isn't what gender is whether or not you're.
So what you guys just heard, okay, is that Vaush, our believer of science, just said that the big five personality trait theory is bullshit and pseudo-intellectual and nonsense.
Yeah.
This is the most widely used, I believe, personality test and personality theory in the world right now by psychologists. And with no evidence, because it came out of Jordan Peterson's mouth, Vaush just said, oh, this is pseudo-intellectual bullshit from like the early 1900s.
Yeah, I'm curious how Vaush makes his argument in favor of gender fluidity. Because, like, what tools does he use? The tools Jordan Peterson's using, he doesn't seem to be satisfied with. You know, these tools that have been around for 50 years. I went back, I was telling Sitch before the stream began, I went back and I read the Wikipedia page on the Big Five personality traits. And it's been studied and peer-reviewed over and over again, cited in other studies. And also, not only that, there were two different researchers that independently came up with basically the same idea that were competing with one another in the same way that Betamax and VHS were competing. So, I mean, there's some pretty strong evidence that the Big Five personality traits are at least measuring something that has some sort of predictive power. So I'm just curious because Vaush seems mystified. He says, wow, when Jordan Peterson says he thinks, gender fluid could be a thing. But so he's in favor of this idea, but how would he conceptualize it? What is he using to define, like, what's going on here with this person? Is it just whim? Is it just subjective feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I can guarantee you that the big five personality traits has been studied and has a plethora of scientific research backing it, more so than whatever theory of gender that Vaush believes.
Yeah.
whatever his neo-Marxian theory of gender is, not backed up by the science, unlike the big five personality. I just, to me, it was crazy. This shows you how deep the tribalism is. It comes out of Jordan Peterson's mouth, so he just immediately dismisses it.
Well, and he goes off on this long, like he's really struggling to say anything meaningful. He goes on this substance-free tirade, just throwing words out.
Right.
Well, I can't really tell what kind of argument he's making.
His argument
Jordan
is
Peterson bad.
This is his argument. His argument is Jordan Peterson bad, and that since he can't intelligently critique the big five and say, oh, here's some studies that criticize or debunk the big five personality, right? Or here's my rationale for why I think the big five personality is not accurate, and this rationale is backed up by people studying it. Okay. He doesn't do any of that. He says, oh, well, when you hear someone talk about like agreeableness and openness to experience and neuroticism, when you hear these words in your brain hole, it makes your brain hole think of in the early 1900s or even earlier when people would talk about like the humors in your body or phrenology or some of these other pseudoscience things.
So different than that.
And so if I can relate some pseudoscience to some actual science to my audience, then my audience will just buy that, hey, that sounds similar, so it must also be pseudoscience.
Yeah.
It's a very dishonest, bullshit, lazy tactic.
There's another system that I am skeptical of, and I think the psychology community is kind of has set aside. Do you know it's like the INTJ personality types?
The Myers-Briggs?
Myers-Briggs. That's exactly what it's called. Thank you. I think that has not passed a rigorous peer review process, and I don't think that they use that in therapeutic research. It's a more in-depth personality type system, but I think that they've had problems with testing, not being able to consistently test people over time. Like they'll test it in the morning and it'll be different. I'm only bringing it up because I believe Vaush references it in here and might be mistaking the big five personality traits for the Myers.
That's possible.
The Myers-Briggs, which is not necessarily as
right.
Yeah.
There's a difference too, because the Myers-Briggs is a personality type, and this is personality traits. Okay. So the difference is like the Myers-Briggs, and I think all personality type fields have had trouble being very scientifically replicatable and proven. Yeah. Or I guess, supported with evidence.
Science. Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you have a personality type, you're like you're kind of narrowly putting someone into a box and saying like, these are personality types. You are this type of person, right?
And people can change over time, obviously.
And people can change. Also, it's very difficult to put people in boxes. People are very different from each other. But if you have traits that are just sort of like, well, you have these kind of broad traits, and then they influence your behavior in like a million different ways. Yeah. That's a lot easier to quantify and to label correctly.
Yeah, that's more stable. Yes.
Right.
Less boxy, more stable. And that even goes to the argument that Jordan Peterson is making, because he's saying, listen, I understand how someone can be gender fluid based on the big five personality traits, high openness. Yeah, and I don't want to let Vaush off the hook, because maybe he is mistaking it for the Myers-Briggs, but he shouldn't be, because Jordan Peterson has said enough here that it's unmistakable what he's talking about, that he's talking about big five.
Right. Aiden says, into J gang represent.
Oh, is she down?
I'm surprised.
Is she down with that?
I would have thought you would have been the INTP, Aiden. not the INTJ.
Oh yeah, some people I noticed some people put it in
Interesting.
their bio and stuff like that.
Right.
They're really into it. They're like looking for someone that matches them. It's like
I'm the INTP whenever I take those tests, the Myers-Briggs test.
yeah, I haven't memorized mine. The big five.
Well, no, because I just when I look at the picture, I remember it's like the little scientist lady, the logistician.
The
There
big
you
five
go.
personality traits. Many people remember it by the acronym OCEAN, and there's one word in it that triggers the fucking shit out of bread tubers and
Right.
leftists alike. You know which one it is? It's openness, conscientiousness,
Mhm.
extroversion, agreeableness, and
Neuroticism. Yeah, and they don't because being labeled neurotic has such a negative
They
connotation.
all
So-
lose their fucking
Right.
minds. How high do you think?
But see, that's kind of a problem because all the other ones, like you have openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, and agreeableness. None of these are negative traits.
Mhm.
And then you have neuroticism, which maybe at the time wasn't a negative trait, but I don't know. Maybe they should change the word
I think
because you're right. It
I
has such a
think they
negative
help.
connotation.
Neuroticism is the one that maybe is negative in any amount, but I think all of them can be bad if abused, if pushed to like
Oh no, of
an
course.
extreme. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They each of the big five traits have negatives in direct, like
Right.
on a spectrum, right? You put the trait on a
Sure.
spectrum, and there's going to be a negative in one direction or the
If
other.
you're too agreeable, you're a doormat. You know,
Right.
extroversion too far, now you're a fucking flasher. It's like, come on.
Right. If you're too conscientious, that means you have no life and you neglect your family and all
Sure.
you do is work
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
If you're too open if you're too open, it means you don't have any stability in your life. You're one of those people who are like, oh, I'm never gonna get married. I'm gonna run around the country,
Yeah.
hitchhiking for the rest of my life. Yeah,
Totally.
all these things have negative and extremes are too
Right.
negative.
But
and also they have
neuroticism, it
extremes.
seems like a thimbleful of neuroticism. You're like,
Right.
okay, well, that's not good.
Right. Neuroticism does seem to be the one which is all bad. I guess.
My question, because I thought about it and I immediately wanted to throw some neuroticism shade Vaush's way, but I'm not sure you can be doing the kinds of things that Vaush and other YouTube commentators are doing and be high on
Right.
neuroticism. It seems
Well,
like
no, yeah, you're correct. But no, actually, no. The way you would look is like, okay, if you're too confident, right? Because the way they put neuroticism is it's sensitive nervousness versus resilient and confident. Okay,
Mhm.
you do need to have
okay.
some
That says it all.
nervousness. You do have to be some. You have to have some neurosis level because otherwise you would never doubt yourself.
Right.
And if you never doubt yourself, you're never going to grow. And you're going to be constantly assuming that any problem you have in life is someone else's fault and not your own. Okay.
True.
And so like, if you're just brimming with confidence, and this is the thing, like, and I wouldn't be surprised this is Vaush, because Vaush
Totally.
just like, he'll say the most dumb shit with the same confidence level as something he's researched, for 10 years. Like he'll say the same tone of voice. He'll say, oh, this thing I pulled out on my ass, I'm just as confident that this is true as something I've looked up and studied for 5 years in my life.
It's true. It's totally true. He has zero neuroticism.
Is zero neuroticism, which is a problem.
It's a
Which is
bad
problem.
thing. Yeah. Look at us, ultimate fucking libs.
There you go.
Everyone
Ultimate
needs
centrist.
a little bit of neuroticism. Come on, guys. It's not all bad.
Yeah, Fuduka just said for $5, neuroticism is positive when it allows you to detect liars and cheats. People low neuroticism can be taken advantage of. That's a good point too.
Oh,
It make you
really?
too trusting, I guess.
Really?
if you're not neurotic
Oh,
enough.
okay. Good. Good.
Yeah,
Oh, here, all plus play.
You're
you press.
feeling agreeable that hey, do a personality test on me when I'm hungry versus when I've just had a big meal. Okay, you'll get two different people. I guess
See, this is why I think he might be confusing the two.
Right.
Unawaredly. Like, I don't think Vaush like, if this was a debate situation, we'd immediately ask Vaush if he knows the difference between the Myers-Briggs
Well-
and the Big Five, and he would not know.
Also, what he's saying doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't, I guess he doesn't understand how personality works. or behavior works.
Mhm.
Because when you're hungry, the reason you get angry, or some people get angry when they're hungry,
Mhm.
is because their body literally starts sending their brain stress signals.
Yeah, cortisol
Okay.
spikes.
Right. And so it's like, well, yeah, people obviously when people are experiencing some sort of chemical in their
Mhm.
brain that goes against whatever their normal state of being is, their personality is going to be different. Someone's like, just because if you were to take a personality test while like wasted
Mhm.
and drunk versus sober, it's going to probably be different. That doesn't mean that the personality test is wrong or that you don't have a personality. It means that when you have different chemicals affecting your brain, your personality is different. Who disagrees with any of this stuff?